Welcome back to When Will I Learn? Give me a second. I want to talk to you about cameras. More specifically, when you should be upgrading. And let me start by saying there's no should about upgrading, really. The only times you should upgrade is when you can afford it and you want to. Maybe if it's your job, it's because there's limitations in the equipment that you've got at the moment that are just holding you back. But it shouldn't just be because something new has come out. To keep up with other people, because the specs are better. I'm talking about this specifically because the a7R IV is coming out from Sony, and the specs, pretty good. Well, at least the photo specs seem really good. Now, I owned the first version of the Sony a7R, and it was a phenomenal stills camera, but the video in that was basically unusable. Just kind of was. And that's because it wasn't really focused at all on video. The fact that it was in there was a blessing, because it meant that I could use it as a B cam when I was very first getting into video. And you know what? I'm not going to bash on the... I'm not going to bash on the specs of the new one, because they're phenomenal. If you want to make great images, videos, that camera is going to be just incredible. Yeah, it's not progressed past the 8-bit 420, 420 of, you know, some of its competitors, but I'm filming on very much a predecessor to this camera, the a6300. And for me, the image out of this is pretty spot on. This is an APS-C sensor. It shoots 4K in a Super 35 format, but that's downsampled from 6K. I was just about ready to get rid of this camera about 6 months ago. I was gonna give it away. I was just gonna hand it to a friend of mine. All because the perceived value that it had. Because it wasn't the newest and the best. I was thinking, I need to be shut of it. But then I replaced the lens that I broke. I've now got a wide angle lens again. And I made a travel video. I made a video where I took this to Italy, and all I took was this and 2 lenses and a microphone and a GorillaPod. And I'm putting that footage together at the moment, and it looks pretty beautiful. I've got no complaints. I mean, the autofocus could be quicker, but that's due to this cheap lens. Now this, on the other hand, this is on its way out for me. Yeah, it gets a good image. It gets a really good HD image, and it's downsampled from 4K. It's got a nice, big-ish sensor. It takes these lenses beautifully. It's got all these features that you do use. Once you get used to these, you will find it hard to live without them. But then, as much as I love the form factor of this, for this size, I'm not getting the image quality that I'm getting out of something like this camera that I'm shooting on. Or even this camera, which is the much maligned Canon R. I think you get a phenomenal image out of this, and it has features like a flip out screen, and no, that's it. That's like the only distinguishing feature on Canon's full frame mirrorless, which is a bit disappointing, but the 4K is usable. In fact, people think it looks really good when I've used it. Give me a sec. But all these cameras are honestly gonna be pretty much good enough to make money with. You know, the wedding films that people shot on a Canon 5D Mark II are probably still being watched and loved by the people whose wedding it was. So it's not that you can't, make a good film using lower spec gear, and it's not that anyone's really going to look down on you. Some people will. Some people are tools though. But that's not on you. Carry on doing your great work and whatever. The reason I'm not upgrading anything. I've already got the things that I need. I'm just getting rid of some extra stuff. So the C100. Like I say, I love the form factor. It's a fantastic camera. You've got a record button up here. So if you're using the top handle, you can start and stop that record. You can sort out your levels, your audio levels and things like that. If you need to know if you're in focus or if your exposure is correct, there's multiple tools for that. There's an ND filter built in that just like is a dial that just literally like flicks over the lens. So you can use any lens and have ND on it. And there's 100 other reasons why this camera is perfect for like shooting a documentary by yourself or shooting some corporate video by yourself. But for me, it's just too big at the moment. And sure, if money's no object, give me an a7R IV. Fuck it, give me all the lenses that Sony make. I'll make a cabinet for them, and maybe I'll use 2 of them. Maybe. And that's the thing. I have a very minimal kit. I've got 5 lenses, unless you count the vintage lenses I've got, which, I mean, they're great, but they're not for interview setups, they're not for vlogging, they're all manual focus, they've all got weird quirks to them. I'm not going to use them for that kind of stuff. I don't use a lot of lenses, so the ND filter thing with the C100, as much as that is great, and that's the ideal circumstance, is having it built in, I wouldn't be too much out of pocket buying a couple of ND filters, a couple of variable NDs to go on the front of every lens. Even if I kitted out every single camera instead of just using 1 or 2. That works for me. Trying to be more minimalist has been really tough with camera gear. And that's why I'm looking at these upgrade paths and what can I have that will stay with me for a long time, will provide more value than the things that it's replacing, and be smaller, more compact, easier to take along with me, and will fit in my new bag. And as much as one of the reasons I got that new bag was so I could fit the C100 in, I think it needs to go. I'm going to put it on eBay. Someone's going to get a bargain because it's a phenomenal camera, but I broke the HDMI port. Remember when I tried to fix that? I found a way to fix it, but I just can't be bothered. I've got this, I've got the OSR, and I've got a rental place I could hit with a stone from my window. So if I need a C200, if I need a red, I'm not gonna need a red. I can't be arsed with that kind of workflow. I genuinely don't know if I could be bothered. And I know that's probably shocking and somewhat blasphemous to some people, but again, unlimited money, I'm playing with the red, I'm seeing what it can do. I'm buying a massive computer that's going to take up space and have to cart around if I want to leave. I guess it all comes down to minimalism, and I think discovering that having all this extra stuff doesn't change anything has just freed me up so much. And I know a lot of people really enjoy camera gear, and I like playing with it, but I don't like to own it. I don't like to you know, have to insure it, have to make sure that it's safe, make sure that all the firmware's up to date. I can't be bothered with that. So yeah, go ahead and buy the a7R IV if it's for you, if you've got the money, if it's something you want. But don't complain about the specs on it. The autofocus on that thing is going to be just phenomenal. Eye track in video, that's amazing. Don't complain about it. Buy it, use it, prove to me that you're good enough for it, not that it's good enough for you. And in the meantime, I'm going to get rid of the Canon C100 and I'm going to see how I get on with this A6300. And obviously the EOS R, but I don't like that camera as much as I like this one. This one's tiny, it's fun, it's easy. I just don't want stuff to get in the way. I don't want stuff to get in the way of the stories that I want to tell or make things harder for me. And you shouldn't either. Rant over. So I just wanted to address the fact that the focus was off quite a bit in this video. And it's because I've been playing around with this camera. This is a camera that I've had for quite a long time. And I broke the lens, the wide angle lens that I had. And I just didn't replace it for like a year. Yeah, about a year. And so I didn't have a wide angle lens for it. I only had a 50mm, which is no good for filming yourself really, is it? So what I did recently is I picked up this lens because I saw there was like a 16mm 2.8 designed for this style of camera. Now it's a really old one, which you can tell by the fact that it's silver, because the NEX line, which predates these cameras, had silver options, and the focus ring is horrible. It's kind of slow to focus, it doesn't have the best motors in it, and so it makes it tough for this camera to keep up. Now if you give it a chance, it'll sort itself out, but sometimes I'm trying to go too quickly for it, and like today it couldn't keep up. So forgive me on that, and don't roast me down in the comments, please. Oh, and by the way, this bit is filmed on the Canon EOS R in HD, upscaled to 4K, because reasons. I'll see you next time.